Hey, fourth graders, we have our graph paper division today. This is a pink sheet of paper that came home on your last delivery. There's something different about this division. Can anybody see a difference? We are starting with 2-digit divisors. We're just going to be doing it a little bit here and there just so that you can kind of get the idea of how to do it if you see it at one point on a test possibly. So I'm going to cross out the middle ones. I don't want you to make a big X, just cross out a little X like this so that we can use the space in the middle. Okay, so let's do that first. And then we're going to work together. Don't get nervous because we're going to work it out together. Mrs. Hagen has a few tips and tricks for you, okay? It's the same process. We're still doing our divide, multiply, subtract, check, and bring down. Those steps still are going to work, okay? But when we start this first one, I can tell that 45, does 45 go into 8? No, 45 is bigger than 8. Put an X there. Can 45 go into 85? Now, it's hard to kind of in your head possibly think, I don't know how many 45s can go into 85. So we can do a couple of things. We can round 45 and say, well, if I round that to the nearest 10, that's 50. I'm pretty good at kind of counting by 50s in my head. I know that 2 50s are 100, and that would be too big, right? So let's try 145. Okay, 1 times 45 is 45. And then I subtract. Remember, when I subtract, 5 take away 5 is 0. 8 take away 4 is 4. Whenever you subtract, you don't want the number that you got. So we got 40. We don't want it to be bigger than the divisor. Otherwise, we didn't take it in enough times. Okay, but ours is smaller, so we're good. Okay, now I do my guess and check. Bring down my 5. Okay, now this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So you say, how many 45s can fit into 405? And you're like, well, I have no idea. Well, once again, we can kind of go 45 is pretty close to 50. And I know that there's 2 50s in 100. I bet you know that too. So if I have 2 50s in 100 and this number says 400, okay, that would mean that there's 8 50s in 400. But I'm not sure if that's going to work or not. So I'm going to do a little problem on the side here, and I'm going to try it and see. I'm going to take my 45 and I'm going to say 8 times. Instead of doing count bys, we're kind of doing guess and checks over here on the side because we have bigger numbers. So I need to check and see if 8 45s will fit into 405. So I do my problem. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 4, 360. Okay, and I can see that that works. Okay, but would it possibly fit in one more time? I'm going to try 45 times 9 and see what I get for that. 9 times 5 is 45. 9 times 4 is 36. Plus 4. Uh-oh, look what happened. It fits perfectly 9 times. But I had to do some guessing and checking to make sure that I got the biggest amount of times that it can fit in there. Okay, so now I know that 9, I like the graph paper because you can put the number in the box. 9 times 45 is 405. And I subtract, and I do not have a remainder. So 19 was my final answer. So instead of doing the count bys, it's like you're doing a 2-digit times a 1-digit on the side, guys, okay? But the rounding thing kind of helps give you an idea of where to start because you're like, oh my goodness, I have no idea. All right, let's look at C. Okay, my divisor is 95. What is 95? If I round to the nearest 10, it's pretty close to 100, isn't it? So I'm going to kind of keep that in my head. All right, does 95 fit into 6? No, it does not. Does 95 fit into 66? Well, it's bigger, so no. Does 95 fit into 665? Yes, it does. Okay, well, I'm thinking if I'm counting by hundreds, because I said that 95 is pretty close to 100, I can count by 100s, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. That's 6. I bet that's a good spot to start, would be 6. So I'm going to try 95. You're doing this with me on the side. 95 times 6, and I'm going to see if that gets close, okay? 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 9 is 54 plus 3, okay, 570. That looks pretty good, doesn't it? Just to make sure that I'm going to try 95 times 7, and I'm going to try that and see if that works. Okay, and I get 7 times 5, 35. 7 times 9 is 63. Plus 3, 6, 6, 5. Guess what? It fits in 7 times, and it fits in evenly, doesn't it? So 7 times 95 is 665. Subtract, and I have no remainder, so my answer is 7. And one thing about this sheet, guys, is every time you do a problem, you are not going to have any remainders. This whole sheet, they're going to all come out evenly. So that will help you. All right, let's look at D. Okay, my divisor is 66. Well, is that closer to 60 or closer to 70? If I round, I would round up to, that's pretty close to 70. So I'm going to start with 70. So first step is I say, does 66 fit into 1? No, it does not. Does 66 fit into 13? Nope, it's bigger than 13. Does 66 fit into 132? Well, it definitely fits in there. The question is how many times? Okay, so you can do the rounding, but sometimes it might be easy enough to take your divisor, which is 66, and do a guess and check on the side here. Let's try 2 times and see if it's bigger than that. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is, oh, look what happened. 66 fit in exactly 2 times. So 2 times 66 is 132. And then I subtract. It's 0. Yes, I have another 0 to bring down. So I'm going to bring it down. Does 66 fit into 0? No, it does not. And so my final answer is 20. So I think the rounding thing can sometimes be helpful, but for you guys for today, just using the divisor that's there and doing your guess and check on the side. Okay? Pay attention because you're going to be left with a couple on for yourself here. All right. My divisor's 35 and my 2,485. So here we go. Does 35 fit into 2? Nope. Can 35 fit into 24? Nope. Anytime the divisor is bigger, it's not going to fit in, okay? So then I say, does 35 fit into 248? Yes, it does. And you're thinking, I don't know how many times it's going to fit. So I'm going to guess and check, okay? So I'm going to take my 35. It's a pretty big number, right? 248. So if I think in my head 35 is kind of close to 40, and I know that 40 and 40 is 80, and there's a, 248, I'm going to start with 4. Let's start with 4 and see what we get, see if that's close. 35 times 4. Remember, we want to get as close to 248 without going over. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14. 35 times 4. That didn't work, did it? I think we can go a lot higher, so maybe we should try. That's the thing about guessing and checking, is you're just getting as close as you can. Okay, so who wants to try you've got 140 right here, so we got 100 left. Okay, let's try 7. Let's try 35 times 7 and see if that's close. If you go over, you just back down again. 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 3 is 21. Plus 3 is, okay, 245. Wow, that's close, isn't it? So that was 7 times. 7 times 35 was 245. So I had to guess and check a couple times to get where I needed to be. Then I'm going to subtract. 8 minus 5 is 3, and all zeros here. I guess I check, bring down my 5, and how many times does 35 fit into 35? You know that, don't you? It only fits in one time. 1 times 35 is no remainder. So our final answer is 71. Okay? So just do your checking like I am. You guys are good at the 2-digit times 1 on the side. Okay? You can do it. All right, so these are the two that I'm going to leave you for on by yourself. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of tips. Okay, I see this first one is 50 for my divisor. Okay, does 50 fit into 9? No. Does 50 fit into 93? Yes, it does. Well, I know that 2 50s are 100. That's going to be too big, isn't it? So I think only 1 50 is going to fit in. And then you're going to continue. Okay, I know this is the day 1 here, so I'm trying to help a little bit. Okay, and then you have number 5 to do on your own. You can do it, guys. Yep, if you have questions, just make sure you come on to study help. I didn't leave you with too many there, so you should be good to go.